Can we get a bit more ethereal? Jungian philosophy?
Yeah.
Very briefly, I mean, there are obviously books on it, but give us 2 sentences.
Carl Gustav Jung, one of the founding fathers of depth psychology, a Swiss psychologist and psychiatrist, and put forward ideas such as the collective unconscious, a dream theory, theory of complexes, etc. A very significant contributor to depth psychology and psychoanalysis.
Depth?
Yes. Yes, in other words, the theory that what motivates us is not only the conscious mind, but that the unconscious mind plays a significant role in our actions and in our motivations and in what we do. One might say that Oscar himself must have had some unconscious motivation in what he did.
In relation to this, you've written an article regarding pictures that Reeva drew when she was about 14, and we're going to bring them up in a second or two. Just to take us through them and what you see reflected there. There's the first one.
Well, we see a set of 2 pictures here, but they're clearly a set. We can see that they belong together. And when these pictures were brought into the public forum by Reeva Steenkamp, she interpreted them as a premonition. Reeva drew these when she was 14, and you seem to see in the picture, you seem to see a man in some sort of a threatening pose. He's holding some sort of object. It's not completely clear what it is that he's holding, a rifle or some sort of protruding object. And we see this angelic character on the right.
There's the same one.
Yeah, there's the, yeah. So this is this sort of threatening character, slightly diminutive, holding some sort of firearm or rifle-like object, or certainly it can be interpreted in that way. And if we go to the other one, we see the image of this young woman in angelic form, in some sort of state of shock or terror. And behind her, you can't see it clearly in the picture, but behind her is a ladder that appears to be, directly behind her is a ladder that appears to be ascending up to heaven.
So how do you apply this to Jungian psychology?
Well, the idea in depth psychology generally, not only Jungian psychology, is that very often the unconscious content that we encounter in dreams, and also in sort of other creative forms such as drawing, art, play therapy, etc., can foreshadow events in the world long before they happen. It's as if something lives in the unconscious mind, some sort of pattern, or for Jung, some sort of narrative, some sort of mythological narrative, before it actualizes in the world. And if one applies that theory, then one might suggest that the pictures themselves were a representation at a very young age of what was lived out in the world some 15 years later.
Is it too easy to call it a premonition?
I think a premonition may be pushing it a little bit, because these things don't necessarily come to pass, but it does seem as if there was some intimation of a possible destiny, of a truth that lived in her as a young teenager, but later sort of it's quite remarkably very similar to what actually occurred.
Oscar's personality has been analyzed by so many different psychologists and tricks of every type, if I can call them that. Do you think it's fair to do that? I see today people are calling him narcissistic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's fair. I wouldn't want to comment on how fair it is, but I suppose what is being commented on are the facts that are available in the public forum, which obviously are fairly extensive, and as the trial goes on, we're seeing more and more of how he's conducting himself throughout the trial. And I think one is able to draw reasonable inferences from that. This is not a perfect analysis. One has to be careful of how far you take it. But certainly, I mean, one doesn't have to be a shrink or a psychologist to infer what Clerinel inferred over the last 2 days, that very clearly Oscar does not seem to be wanting to take responsibility for his actions.
Stephen, our time is up. Thank you very much for being with us once again.
Thank you for having me.